All right, so the topic we want to look at will be strategic partnerships, contract negotiations, and we are going to make references to consortia, consortium, and collaborations for our procurement success. You will need to know how to also do contract negotiation. And I was saying that we will look into risk management again. We looked at it in the last two sessions, and we just want to be sure that we get it right. So we'll look at it again. All right. So when you want to look at negotiation, the very first thing you need to put in mind is how you select your partners. I'm sure you understand it when we say that we want to do partnership, we want to do alliance management, we want to do strategic partnership. When we are talking about strategy, it's just a way of being critical about the way we look at what we want to look at. You must look at everything holistically so you don't make a mistake. Okay? So you will have to, sorry, I'm not going to be able to share, to show my face, number one, because of the network. And I'm not going to share any screen today. So you can put down whatever you are able to put down. I am not preparing slides for this. I just want us to look through and understand it this way. It's been a busy week for me, so I didn't even have time to do all of this. Okay, so there won't be slides for tonight, but I hope we also get as much value as when there are slides. So we are going to talk through for the 1 hour session, because I have another training like almost immediately after this one. So I was saying that when you want to do any partnership, you have to look critically at your partner selection. Even the word of God says two cannot work together except they are in agreement. So you can't just pick anybody, any and anybody. You have to select properly. Then it will involve deal negotiation, execution, and then you have to put your exit strategy. That is, this partner that I have, how will this person go? We know how this person is coming in. How will this person go? And in all honesty, there are always challenges, a lot of challenges, misconceptions, so you have to ask a lot of questions before you decide to go into partnership with anyone. Okay? You have to be very, very strategic about it. You look at the person critically, and you know that this person has what you need. So when we are talking about partnership or alliance, we are talking about an agreement between two organizations. Remember, this is business now. We are not talking individuals. We are talking about businesses. So we are saying that it's an agreement between two organizations to share. You want to share your resources and you want to carry out a mutually beneficial job, an initiative that will be beneficial to the two organizations. Because if it's one-sided, if it's lopsided, then it's no longer a partnership, and there's bound to be problem. So when you are looking at all of these alliance, joint ventures, strategic alliance, joint venture, your firm still remain independent. When you look at what you mean by alliance when you are joining partnership. Your firms, those your businesses will still be independent in doing whatever you want to do, you know. But if you want to do JV, that is joint venture, which is also a partnership, okay, the two companies will share resources, all right, but we create a separate company. Many people don't know this in Nigeria. They will say they are doing joint ventures. They are still doing it individually. But ordinarily, what you are supposed to do when you are doing a JV is for both of you to provide resources. Then you create a separate company, you know, so that you can then use that for your joint venture. And why do we even go into partnership at all? You know, markets can be very red. For you to compete properly in a market, for you to compete better, let me put it that way. In a market, you may be looking at partnership. And then when you want to venture into a new market, for instance, now Ruth is into spices, and Natasha, you are into what did you again now? Gifts, souvenirs, gifts. Okay. So if Ruth is going into what you are doing, going into souvenir sales or supplies, there's no way, because if you have started long enough, you must have accumulated some experiences which she doesn't have. She may just be well off to start maybe a joint venture or a partnership with you. Maybe she's the one that has the money, but you have the experience. So if you want to venture into a new market, then you will need somebody who has that experience of the new market to partner with. And you may also want to improve your service or product portfolio, you know, so that when you are talking to people in the procurement space, you're able to say, I also know how to do this. I also know how to do this, you know, and both of you can now come together to achieve a common goal for your mutual benefits. Your mutual benefits. Okay. So that is what partnership is all about. There are so many nuances to this, but I don't really need to bug you with all of this. But just for you to understand and know what partnership means, what joint venture means, why you may need to go into this. So, like, if you have already started thinking, how do I compete even in this market? You may want to look for somebody who has better understanding of the market, and then you propose to go into partnership with a person. There isn't anything wrong in forming partnership with people, you know. It's actually strengthens our businesses. It's just that sometimes there's a whole lot of issues with people in this part of the world, because you are thinking this way, the other partner is thinking the other way. This is why it is imperative for you to choose wisely. You have to look at the very first lesson we had. I remember talking about this. You have to look at the person critically. Are you socially aligned? Are you economically aligned? Do you like the same thing? Because when somebody is saying, let's look for our customers in the church, and somebody is saying, no, we must look for our customers in the beer parlor, you know, then you know that you do not share the same aspiration, and it's just a matter of time that this kind of thing can throw spanners into the wheels of the progress of the partner trying to form, except if you know that you are so desperate, even what you do not like, you're alone from this, your partner, then that will be fine, you know. Even without my share stream, without anything, they are still saying my internet is not stable. Thank you guys, co-hosts, so that if my adventure I'm thrown out, you only need to just hold on I will be right back. Okay, so while we are looking at the topic, of strategic partnership, contract negotiations, collaboration for procurement success, it is always good also to even look at the procurement and contract management. How do you manage your procurement? How? What are the processes in procurement? We've already talked about that, so you may need to go back and look at those, because you need to know before you start looking at partnership, you must know the processes. Where would this person be useful? Okay? So that when you are even negotiating to, you know exactly who is stronger. So you take your own strong points, and this person also takes his or her own strong points. There are stages in contract management. You will need to know where you are strong and where your partner over. Okay? Your planning, your solicit when you solicit for the job. These are key stages in procurement. The solicitation, whatever they call it, yes, solicitation. That process, the planning process, the selection, the administration, and then you have a closure. And you must make sure, timely delivery plays a very strong part in procurement. We've talked about that as well. You have to be quality minded. The quality, the standard you want to give must be high up, and what the owner of the job really, really wants. You can't just do anything, otherwise they may not take this from you, and then there may be problems. So when you want to manage your procurement, you must make sure you understand these procurement processes. You must understand the contracts, and then you must be able to manage all the stages of the contracts. These are very, very essential, and you need to know. Can any one of you even tell us what procurement is again? I remember asking you initially, but let's see whether we are retaining what we are learning. What is procurement? What is procurement now? Just unmute yourself. You are both.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, it's Ruth speaking. The procurement is the process of finding, acquiring, and buying goods and service, or sourcing for goods and service for an external body or for an external organization.
Are you in agreement, Natasha?
Yes, ma.
It's only for an external organization that you can do procurement.
No organization.
This is actually what I really want to get, whether you are retaining what we are teaching. Because I remember you guys also defined procurement this same way. And I explained to you that even in your own small businesses, in our own very, very small businesses, we also do procurement. If you are tailoring, that act of you buying thread, sending people to supply you with thread, with material, with everything, is still procurement. So when you acquire goods or services from an outside source, that is procurement. When it's not you, yourself that you are doing it. So you obtain these products or services from your market suppliers, or from your, that day I told you that some of us call them buyers. In my business, we call them buyers. We call them buyers because they are not employed by us. So we choose by, even in my house. So it's not only in business, in my house, I have buyers. So when I want that's the procurement. Because when I have list of what I need to buy for the house, I give a list to the buyer. Buyer goes to the market. He or she will do the negotiation and get the things that I need. So the buyer will be the one to source, and that's what the processes are. You need to source and then purchase the goods or services for the person who needs this. I hope we will get it this last time, okay? So that we don't keep saying the same thing. And you can also outsource all of these things if they are not your core business. Now, when you are thinking of a contract, when you have a contract, we spoke a lot about contracts the last time when I was dealing with risk management, and this is still what we are looking at, because before you start having partnership, negotiation, and all of that, you must think contracts. There must be an agreement between the parties that are, involved. And this agreement must be enforceable, not just ordinary agreement that we just, and they must also be recognizable by the law of the land where you are. So you don't just tell, oh, Ruth, Natasha, let's form this partnership. Okay, we are good to go. Let's go on. Because along the line, if something happens or if anything goes wrong, you must have a paper. You must have something you are referring to as the basis for that partnership. So there must be a contract. And this leads us to the definition of a contract. Contract is an agreement between two or more parties so that obligations are formed. You are creating obligations that are enforceable and recognizable as a law. So you don't just enter into partnership with people. And for the contract to be enforceable, the parties must agree. You must be on the same terms, conditions, and the subject matter. It's not that Natasha will say, okay, it's Ruth's business we want to kind of duplicate. So it's spices we are talking about. And Ruth is saying, no, we are talking about tailoring. You must be in agreement, so that the contract can be enforceable. And the contract, I've said it, let me repeat myself, must be clearly written, clearly communicated. The terms and conditions, the obligations of each partner must be clearly communicated to this person. Okay? And the contract also must be properly managed if you are thinking partnership. Okay? So this will enable both parties to be able to meet their obligations and deliver the objectives required from the contract for that partnership to function properly. And you must build a very good working relationship with your partners and even your suppliers and whoever will be involved in whatever you are doing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Are you following?
Yes, ma.
Okay. So now, if we want to look at contract negotiation, we've talked a lot about our partnership, and I believe we understand it better now. Okay. When we want to do a contract negotiation, you need to first look at the type of contracts that you are even talking about. You know, there must be an understanding of what you want to do before you can go into negotiation. And you see, when you want to, when you are thinking negotiation, the whole thing must be clearly explained. Okay, the terms and conditions must be well established. So you, if it's going to be goods, or it's going to be services, or it's going to be works, you must understand it clearly. Because how do you negotiate what you don't even know? What you don't understand, there's no way you will be able to negotiate properly. And the compensation must be clearly stated. That is the total cost, payment schedule, the financing terms. We talked a lot about financing the last time. What are the terms? It must be clearly stated. Okay? And the effective dates of the completion, the termination dates, the renewal dates, if you are going to renew, or even the startup dates must be properly stated and acknowledged. You know, they must be clearly stated and acknowledged. You will identify and address all potential risks and liabilities you can find, having understood what the contract is all about. You have to set, define, and set reasonable expectations, not just any lousy expectations, okay, for everything to work out well. When you, sorry, I need to drink water. So when you want to negotiate, you will need to have your strategies for planning. You will know the differences between what you need and what you want for the job to be well done. You will know your bottom line. So you know exactly when to walk away from a negotiation table. Because if the bottom line is not making sense, there's no point being on that table. You have to know your bottom line so that you know exactly when you can take your leave. Okay? They cannot just say, start. When you start, we will now continue to talk to you. No, that is not a good negotiation skill. When you look at the contract properly and you understand your constraints and everything, all the issues you may have, then you will know how to up your game when you are negotiating. Because most of the time, it's not just you put in your request for proposals. Okay, they said come. Then they tell you to put in your RFQ, that is your request for quotation. They said come. Then they tell you to send in your prices and your best of whatever. They may still call you. In fact, more often than not, they will call you to come and negotiate. And when you get to the negotiation table, if you are not careful, you may be blown up. And then because you don't want to lose the contract, you start agreeing with them. No, don't do that. This is why I said you must understand your bottom line properly so you know when to say no. Because sometimes they know that the prices they are offering or even the conditions they are offering are not suitable. I believe that most times it's also to test your confidence, to test your capability, to test even if you know what you are doing at all, that they bring up some very, very lousy conditionalities, and they are expecting you to agree. So if you agree because you are shy, or you agree because most of the time, immediately, they may decide to go into a contract signing with you. And once you sign, then you are in it, and you will have to provide the standard they want. So you must be able to go to negotiation table with your confidence, know your bottom line, be able to define your constraints and issues you are likely to have. You need to also assess very well your potential liabilities and risk. Like if they are saying that you should come and supply something across the ocean, you know that you will have to take boats or whatever. I mean, all those things add up. All those things add up. Then you need to also go with confidentiality right there in your mind. You have to negotiate the confidentiality, non-compete, dispute resolution. If there is any dispute, how are we going to resolve this? And then how many times can they change their requirements? All of this you have to, even if if these things that you are hearing now, they are not on their list, you can bring them up. You can bring them up to say about confidentiality. Are you going to be able to expose my own prices to other vendors? Because some of them do that. When their relations are going to supply the same thing with you, they may decide to open up your own prices to their relations so that that one can be more competitive. Okay? And then the dispute resolution, don't wait until there are disputes before you start thinking of how you can resolve disputes when they rear their ugly heads. And you see, just as you are putting this across to the people you want to work with while you are doing your negotiation, you must also play on the same wavelength with your own vendors. Because some of the things you want to supply them, you're also going to get from some vendors. So you may need also to try as much as possible to do unto others as you will really want others to do unto you. Okay? Some mistakes people make when they go to negotiation table. Some people don't really realize whether they would even need a legal counsel. You need to think about that, depending on who you are dealing with, and maybe the size of the contract. Maybe you will need a legal counsel. You start thinking about that. Okay? And when you want to negotiate with anybody, you have to be sure that the person you are negotiating with has the rights of the company to negotiate with you. So they don't come back to say that you negotiated with the wrong person, and so all your negotiation is null and void. So you will need to also ascertain that this person that you are talking to is actually the right person to talk to. Okay? And in a negotiation that you have other stakeholders, like you have other competitors, you must make sure that you also study them. You should make sure that you study them. When you are going for negotiation, no matter what they are saying, you have to remain very calm and composed. Don't go there and show any aggressiveness, even no matter what they are saying. Even when people are rude, even when they call you dumb, you have to go there and be very, very calm. Very calm. Don't jump at things too quickly. Don't jump at things too quickly. And when you are putting up your request, we have already talked about that, but let me reiterate it again. Make sure that your terminologies are properly defined and understood. Don't go and use too big a grammar that at the end of the day may not make any business sense. Just express yourself in a very detailed manner and make yourself understood. And in your contract, whatever it is that you are presenting, whether it's your RFQ or your RFP or whatever, make sure that you are consistent. Don't say this in page 1 and get to page 3 and copy someone else's contract and start putting that. Make sure that you are very consistent. Okay? Make sure that you are very, very consistent in what you are putting up. All right. That would be that on negotiation. I hope also that you are taking in what I am saying. All right. Now let's look at risk management, because I really want us to finish by 7 p.m., later 7:10. But so far, so good. Are you taking in what I am saying? Do you understand? Or there are some gray areas that you do not understand? Are we together?
Understood, ma.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Okay.
I wanted to ask a question, please. I don't know if it's the right time or after you finish.
Okay. What I think you should all do with your questions so that we can be able to finish on time, please ask them on the platform. Okay? Just put them out on the platform, depending on when we finish here though. So like if we're able to finish for 7 and we still have the 10 minutes, then we can quickly round up with the questions. Otherwise, please just ask the questions on the platform. I will be back on them. All right, so we want to look at procurement risk and how we can mitigate this risk, all this procurement risk. We spoke about some the other time, and we will also need to continue to talk about them because once you fall into all of these mistakes, it's always very, very grave and difficult to get out from them. So we need to talk about mitigating all this risk, either risk coming through from your vendors or you yourself not looking critically at your contract papers before you sign. Okay? When you choose the people that would be your suppliers, you need to have a very strong sourcing process. You don't go and give your deposits to somebody that is not strong enough, that if anything happens, like even if there is a natural occurrence, that this person won't be able to pay you your deposit back. You need to properly identify a very strong supplier. So you have a very strong sourcing process so that this will mitigate a lot of risk in your money getting lost. Okay? You will identify the suppliers properly. And like I said in the previous classes, you don't just use one supplier, you don't just choose one supplier and start dealing with that supplier. You have to go through many so that you go through the due process of making a choice, you know. And before you do all of this, you ought to know exactly what you need. Like I said earlier, not what you want, because you know our needs are different from our wants. And in all of this, depend also on the how large the business you want, even if it's not large, because large is actually very relative. So an SME, a 5 million contract can be adjusted to be very large because it depends on how much you have in your account. Even if you have a lot in your account, it's not supposed to be used to pay unnecessary debts. So when you want to choose where you want to do your supply, it will be good for you to avoid disaster reading places, you know? So when you want to, like, somebody was telling me about something that I could do in Borno. I know that I live in Lagos, by the way, and I mean, I'm a woman also under authority. I have a family. It's not only business that we are here to do. So I could contract it out to people to do in Borno. That would be really that would really be very, very smart as a business person. But the truth is, how far are you sure that the person you have contracted it out to will be able to do it well? And the job is on your name. That's number one. Now you want to be there to foresee, to look at what they are doing, and then you are able to be sure that it's properly done. How do you want to, how do I carry myself from here to Borno many times before the execution of the, so that is one of the ways you can mitigate risk. Because it will be very risky for them to give me money to start something and I then just trust it into somebody that I don't even know. Even if you know, let me say I don't know the capability. So it's not okay to do that. Once you know that you won't be able to supervise a job, it's just okay for you not to take it at all. So that you don't put yourself into, apart from the debt that you can even enter into, about your integrity. You never know where you are going to meet those people again. Like some people, we have been with Nigerian botany company almost forever, doing stuff like making their uniforms, design. We even designed their badges very many years ago. And then we supplied their point of sales, marketing materials, and all of that. And over the years, because when I say many years now, over the years, some of them in the procurement units moved to other places. And for me, I may not even know. In fact, most of the time, I wouldn't even know that they have moved. They will be the ones to contact me to say, okay, Madam Kofsal, we need this, we need this. And I'm like, okay, we're at your beck and call. What are we doing this time? And then they will send another logo. And I'm like, what's happening here? You didn't know I moved to this company. Now this is where I am. That's because we had a good rapport. That's because we supplied as at when due. That's because they can trust us that they will deliver. And if they're not going to deliver, they will tell us why. Because it's not all the time that you can actually deliver. Sometimes you want to deliver, like COVID happened. Nobody was expecting COVID now. So probably you are in between a procurement and these things are far away in China. God will not allow us to see any COVID again or anything related to that kind of useless disease again in Jesus' name. But it happened. So peradventure, you had supplies ongoing and they are far away in China. Everybody was locked down. That was even a general thing. So they can understand even without you going there to say, oh, these things had not come because they're still in China. At least you know what's going on. Nobody's shipping, nobody's flying, anything. They can still understand that. But even if it's not that, if it's as little as the fact that you were looking for money to do this procurement and you couldn't get, be very open. Let them know. The worst that can happen is that they will take it from you and give it to someone else. At least you will walk away with your integrity intact. And this must have been after you've gone everywhere and you're not able to. You mitigate that risk of spoiling your name. against next time, you know. And what you know you cannot do, don't bother collecting, except if you truly know that you have somebody who can do it and who you can trust it to. Then you can say, okay, let's give it a shot. Because, I mean, but make sure that you consider all the risk involved before you take any job at all. Before you take any job, make sure that you look at the risk involved so that you don't regret anything. And you know, you also have procurement cycle. You plan, you know, you tender, you evaluate, you manage, you do your vendor management, you know, all of these are what you have to look into when you are doing your partnership or you are trying to go into negotiation and you want to risk. Okay. So we have a couple of minutes for questions. Ruth, you said you had a question. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate. And honestly, it was like the topic for today was what was going through my mind this morning. And I'm grateful that you're able to answer so many questions. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask was regarding payment, right? So I have this friend that is into rice. He have direct contact with those that produce this rice. And the pricing is at a very,
That
very
produce
like
what?
rice that process the rice, sorry, not produce. That he have
Rice. Okay.
rice, Nigerian rice, yes. You have the direct contact of the company that produce the rice, that process the rice, sorry, and the pricing is it's it's a fair price compared to what we have been seeing. We are seeing outside, and also the rice is good. So I was thinking today, I reached out to him that I would love us to go into a partnership where I will get the clients and we'll go into the partnership where he will give me at his own price. I will set my own price. Then we'll get the clients. If they pay, I pay him. He deliver. I would tell them to give 70% upfront. Then I pay him his money. Then the remaining 30%, that is the balance, that is where my own profit is. Then they're going to pay me back, but he will do all the running around, sorting, bagging, and sending. Mine used to stand as a middle person to between himself and also with my clients. Is that the best way to handle a procurement like that, or we have to have a set agreement? When I mean he will sort out the finances, that let's say he give me the rice for 700 naira, for instance. I'll ask him with the logistic is 700 naira. Then I can now tell my client that 750. So when the client pays me, I pay him his own money alongside his profit that he's made and keep my own. But his own is that everything regarding the packet, the bagging, the processing, the logistics, they will take care of it. Since they've given us their price, the mine is to stand as a middle person that will bring in the client and also bring in from his end. So I wanted to ask, is this the best way to handle such, or must I need a contract for an agreement of that sort? Thank you so much.
Okay, so exactly what we treated is the question you are asking again. I remember mentioning vehemently that don't do gentleman agreements. That's just what I was saying in essence when I said your contracts must be properly written, properly documented. All this that you have said off your head now must be put down. I hope you know that in this scenario that you have put forward, both of you are actually middlemen. Both of you. He has the contact of the production company. He's not the owner of the production company. Please unmute yourself and be answering me. Am I right or right?
Yes, yes. You
Uh-huh.
have the direct contact to the
He
production
has the
company.
direct contact, but he's not the owner.
No, it's
So
not.
this means that the owner of the rice processing company can change a lot of things around that he himself has no control over. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
He cannot force the owner of, because if the federal government of Nigeria now, as they often do, if they just change their policies about how people should do rice production, and it's going to affect this rice production company. And they now said, okay, we have been, Itato, we have been giving our bags of rice at 7,000 naira. Now, with all this that federal government had put on our necks, we cannot do it less than 10,000 naira. And meanwhile, this guy, it's not his fault. It's not the fault of the company also. It is,
Yes.
it is Nigeria's fault. Unstable business environment that we are, unfortunately so. Because when people are saying it's because of dollar, it's not because of dollar, it's because of naira actually. Dollar had always been stable. When you look at dollar to euro, dollar to pounds, all these ones may not change for years because those other ones also, they have very stable currencies. But it's when you are talking about naira, dollar, and Ugandan shilling, dollar, that you start having all those things. So if the production company had to change, then that means that the person you are talking to would also change. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
you have already told your own clients that it is so much. You are going to dent your image, your integrity, everything we have talked about here today will be applied to what you are going to lose without your clients. Especially these clients are giving you a deposit. Now, we are taking it back now. If these clients are giving you a deposit, from what you have narrated to us now, you will have given that other middle, your own business partner, you will have given the deposit to him, and he probably would have deposited with the rice production or processing company. Rice processing company will tell you that they have used it to buy raw materials. You see where all this is actually a good, very good um, example of what we have treated tonight. Because the rice processing company, I sit on a board of a food supply company, Nigerian, and that company lost about, before I came on board though, that was one of the reasons they were now looking for corporate governance and all of that. They lost over 50 million naira in rice processing. So at least I know a bit about the process that you have to go through, because you have to now start going to police headquarters, Abuja, blah, 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 and everything, looking for 50 something million. In one transaction, over 15 million naira lost because of things like this. And unfortunately, this company also did not have any contract signed. It's just words of mouth. As I speak, the money had not been found. Then we now looked into the books and we saw that there were many like that. Many,
Wow.
many like that. They will say they gave some people money in Abakaliki for Abakaliki rice. And they gave some people money, this. So just like that, because the MD, he had good knowledge of what he wants to do, but he couldn't really do his business planning properly. And he was trusting too much. He was trusting a lot. So the rice processing factory will just tell you that we have used it to buy raw material. There's nothing we can do about it. Do you want to collect the number of bags that your money can take? Is that what you want to go and tell your clients? No. So is either you put yourself in BC, or your integrity is dented forever, or you even enter police wahala, because it depends on the kind of client you are dealing with. When it comes to money, people don't know relations. It's not, I used to know. No, they'll tell you that this is business. My business is Copsom. My name is Ola Oshebiko. How are we related? Pay the company. That's when they will now start, you know, putting that line that you have never seen before between themselves and their business. Because that's the truth anyway. The business
Yes.
is different from my person. So you are owing the business, you must pay back. So please don't do that. No matter how close you are, that's why I said don't wait until the risk come into being before you start looking at how you want to avert it. All of this will have been done in your contract, what you put down, signed by both of you, agreed to by both of you. As a matter of fact, you want to see the agreement he has with the rice processing factory. You have decided on how much you are going to buy from, so it doesn't matter. So even if their pricing is in the contract he has with the processing company, it's okay. You just want to see that he has an agreement with them so that there is no story, you know? So when anything happens, at least you have already mitigated a lot of risk. You have not given money to just a random guy that may not have any control over. Even if you are doing it directly with the rice processing factory itself, you must have an agreement properly signed. And this agreement must include what will be beneficial to both parties, not a lopsided agreement. I hope you have better understanding of partnership, agreement, negotiation, because that's also a form of negotiation. How much is mine? How much am I giving you? What will you do? What will you be doing? Like you have rightly said, the bargain. That's why we say you must know all the processes. You see now that what we are teaching is not academic, it's practical, it's what would happen. So when you know all that is involved in this value chain, in this rice production to the supply stage, then you will know how to negotiate. It's because you have already known that there will be, I think there's also sieving. They also sieve the rice. They kind of,
Yes.
they call it, what do they call it now? They separate, so something like separation to the rice.
They trash, they destone, they sieve,
Uh-huh.
and they polish.
I know that they destone. Um, the Nigerian rice, most of the time they don't polish because that's actually what differentiates Nigerian rice from the one, because once you polish, you have already over processed whatever is there. So when you are seeing polished Nigerian rice, they know that most of the nutrients are gone. So at least you have to know the process. You see now, that's part of what we treated. You must know the contract you want to sign, the process. Well, if you don't know the process, there's no way you can negotiate it. You cannot negotiate what you don't know. So you're able to now let him know that, okay, the threshing, the destoning, the bagging, is it your own? This is what I will take. The only thing I'm going to take is that I pick it up from the factory and I supply to my client, because you also want to hide your clients from this, your partner, because that's the kind of partnership you have. It's not a partnership that you are together, that you form together like a joint venture. If it's a joint venture, then why not? You have put resources together to start this company. So he can know the clients, he can go and supply there. You are open to that. The proceeds will be shared equally, or the way you have agreed by both of you. But if it's just for him to produce for you and you are supplying your client, it will be foolhardy for you to tell him to do the supply, because then he can go back to your own clients to let them know that he can actually supply cheaper, because he can. By the time he goes directly to them, he's able to remove your own profits and then supply them directly. Maybe just put a little bit more and then you are out of business. So you need to also be strategic. in whatever it is that you are doing. Okay?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Hopefully, I will start making a contract this night.
Okay. But both of you have to agree to it, because you can't just do a contract that will be lopsided. And it's better for you to venture out of a partnership before it even starts than for you to get in there and get stopped. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you
So
so much.
any other question? Natasha, any question from you? Because we have only 3 minutes.
No question, ma. Thank you so much for all the explanation. At least we have known now that in any deals we are into, we must get our document documented and we have to agree on whatever we are doing. Thank you so much, ma.
You're welcome. All right. So we can safely end the meeting. Have the best of the rest of the day. Bye-bye.